What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love hip hop like I do. I just wanted to give a few quick takeaways on the versus battle between Bone Thugs-n-Harmony and 3-6 Mafia. Now, I was excited as hell about this versus. I felt that it was long overdue, that Bone Thugs-n-Harmony in particular got their due. In fact, I released a couple videos just before the versus battle, choosing like the 20 songs that I thought Bone should bring with them to the battle. So now that the battle has taken place, I just wanted to weigh in a bit. And instead of doing like a track by track who won the battle for each of the songs down the line, maybe another conversation for another day. Overall, I thought that 3-6 Mafia had the much better energy and just the bigger stage presence. I felt that and feel that Bone has the better catalog between the two groups, but it was a lot closer, pretty even. I mean, I'm sure that people are pretty split in terms of who won it. But again, instead of doing the track-by-track approach, I just want to give my overall takeaway. Now, I can't start this without getting right into the most controversial part, because this hasn't happened really in a versus battle thus far. And, Gangsta Boo obviously somehow got under Busy Bone's skin as him and the crew were performing Buddha Lovers, the weed anthem from the East 1999 Eternal album. So, this was nothing new to versus battles. Like, if you've seen the Lox versus Dipset, it's kind of a different energy for different battles, I guess. Like, you're not going to get Teddy Riley and Babyface, cussing each other out and going after each other in the same way that, we got with the Lox and Dipset. Well, when Busy was performing his sung vocals to Buddha Lovers, 3-6 was kind of doing their thing, sort of mocking the performers in a battle-style fashion, and Busy Bone was just having none of it. So as soon as Buddha Lovers wrapped up, he stopped the crowd, said, "Hey, y'all ain't gonna be mocking me on stage, blah, blah, blah." Juicy J basically says, "Suck my and then Busy, threw a water bottle at Gangsta Boo, threw something else, and this all happened within a second or two. I think DJ Paul, ran towards Bone, but for the most part, the members are cool. But this, was a situation that got out of hand, and we're lucky that it wasn't worse, and we're lucky that most of these guys are OGs and not young dudes right now. Otherwise, it could have been worse, especially when you have like entourages involved and so forth. But, for a while, they stopped the show. Nobody got really badly hurt as far as I know. Most people within the groups were trying to break stuff up, break the fight up for the most part. Lazy Bone, being like the leader of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, always having to play diplomat and often on Busy's behalf, because Busy has always been the unpredictable wild card in the group. I mean, for a long time during the group's history, Busy wasn't showing up to shows, videos, on songs. In fact, after the fight, Gangsta Boo basically said, "Hey, he's basically messing up y'all money. Y'all better without him." And there was a little truth to that. I mean, that was a very frustrating thing to go throughout Bone's career as a fan and as an appreciator of Busy's skills. The fact that he was almost like a part-time member during different periods of their career. So that happened. And it made me kind of wonder, like, what was Busy thinking? Because just before the battle, he had posted on social media, like, this long post about, 3-6 Mafia needs to own up to being, like, devil worshippers. They've got to denounce Satan on stage, and I'm going to put pressure on them to do so. Even though back in the 90s, Bone Thugs also had a reputation, or at least like a mystique about them, where there were like rumors that they were into this and into the devilish occult culture. I mean, even in the East 1999 Inlet, the booklet, there's like a Ouija board with like backwards writing and something that you could hold up to a mirror to see what scripture or whatever is printed in regular left to right form, because again, everything is backwards in this Bone Inlet. And it was just like a lot of imagery, and people associated Bone with the occult as well. So I thought it was kind of interesting that Busy went at 3-6 before the show even started on social media, basically bringing that energy into the battle. And then he's going to be the one that gets offended when Gangsta Boo and their crew are kind of like, just being very dismissive of Busy's performance as he's performing. But I get it. He's passionate as an artist. So even though these things are contradictory, he felt super emotional, and he does get super emotional and reacted emotionally. And we saw what we saw. But the show continued, and then several songs later, I think Busy missed BT&H Resurrection, the Paper song. He came back later on, but those aren't even like my biggest takeaways from this battle. One of my biggest takeaways is it me, or did Bone not perform first of the month? Like, is that on the DJ? Whose bad is that? And how does that song get overlooked? that was one of the best singles, not only the biggest, but the best. Like, Look Into My Eyes might have, charted higher. I've got to go back and look, but Look Into My Eyes wasn't as good a song or isn't as timeless as First of the Month. I mean, when people just say the words First of the Month, they associate that with the Bone Thugs and Harmony song often. And yeah, to leave that one out was just a head scratcher. So again, I don't know if that's on the crew's personnel. I don't know if that's on the DJ in the Bone Thugs preparation, but yeah, that's inexcusable. The other big thing is, each member of Bone, and I'm going to be talking more about Bone. I think that 3-6 at least battled evenly and they had a great energy, and every song, even though they don't, like Lord Infamous and Koopsta, they passed away. They were like the finesse rappers in 3-6 Mafia. But, DJ Paul, Juicy J, Project Pat came out, Gangsta Boo, and other affiliates and collaborators, some big collaborators like Wiz Khalifa and Lil Wayne. Come on. And then on the Bone side, you had Lil Eazy-E stepping in for Easy, rest in peace for the Love of Money. You had Shatasha, who was the vocal on Thuggish Ruggish Bone. So Bone Thugs, Chameleon Air came out for Riding Dirty with Crazy Bone. So they had their, good features as well. But yeah, like 3-6 brought some heavy hitters and they brought a heavier energy. Their voices tend to resonate more. They just have louder voices. Their songs don't require the same technical precision that the Bone Thugs verses and lyrics require, as well as the harmonizing on a lot of their hooks. I think it's harder to pull off the Bone Thugs and Harmony sound off in a live environment than it is to pull off the 3-6 Mafia sound off. But yeah, 3-6 Mafia totally held it down. I wouldn't argue with anybody who said that they essentially won the battle. Again, even if I thought that Bone and think that Bone has the better catalog. But if you look at the Bone Thugs personnel, each member has like their own gifts. Wishbone, for instance, he's not by any stretch the best rapper in the group, but he actually does carry and has carried for years. I saw them perform like 20 years ago or something at the Budweiser Superfest, by the way, with Mary J. Blige, Genuine, Aaliyah, and Drew Hill. Bone Thugs actually headlined that performance. Think about that. But Wishbone has always been like one of the bigger, physically bigger members of the crew, and his voice resonates. In fact, he could, have a career, a standalone career, probably as just one of those like Fat Man Scoop type DJs, somebody who's just a big presence at a club or something, just like, shouting out whoever's birthday it is, and, that type of thing. I mean, Wish probably has enough money to where he doesn't need to moonlight with a job like that, but that's the kind of stage presence he carries. Lazy, as I mentioned, is the leader, so he's like the diplomat of the crew. He's the smallest in the crew. Voice doesn't resonate, but he used to move a lot more actively on the stage. He was probably still the most active mover in Bone, but yeah, back in the 90s and stuff, he used to do like these kind of steps with his feet that, just it made for a good stage movement. And Busy is obviously a wild card. When I shot Busy a few years ago in Anaheim, California, he was doing Thugs Cry, and he performed those fast verses with technical precision, like flawlessly. It was a beautiful performance. I thought that he was gonna have a backing track, which brings me to the next member. And this, to me, was my biggest takeaway. The reason why Bone Thugs and Harmony, aside from the fact that they don't appear to have any camaraderie, Eazy-E passed away very early in their career. And yeah, they've had several years to be able to get this thing together. But it's almost like they've been mismanaged or haven't been managed, or there just hasn't been a ton of unity in terms of moving as a unit from the group since like 96, 97, to be honest. I mean, they have had albums since that, but they haven't really been able to get on the same page and then stay on the same page for any significant amount of time, it seems. But Crazy Bone, Busy actually referred to Crazy on a special, like a late night TV show special they did a while back. He referred to Crazy Bone as being like the scientist of the crew. And if you listen to his verses, like the Mo Murda first verse, again, one of my favorite verses in hip hop history, they did play Mo Murda that night. But Crazy Bone has probably the most like precise flow out of anybody in the crew. It's smooth as all hell. Just the agility and the speed and just like the modulating your voice over there. It's like he is just the king of that. Again, I wouldn't argue if you say Busy is that. I think that Crazy is even more so that. Just technically precise lyrically and flow-wise. But what's killing me about these Bone shows, and it's really bothered me since the 90s, is that they play with a backing track, a backing vocal, which, for hip-hoppers, like hip-hop purists, that's almost a cardinal sin, because to be the MC, you're supposed to be able to hold it down with your voice alone without any backing track, and the crowd is supposed to feel your presence, and you're supposed to be able to execute. I mean, we just saw Big Daddy Kane, who's like older than all the Bone members, just execute perfectly in his versus battle versus KRS-One. But Crazy Bone, for being like the most technical in Bone Thugs and Harmony, is the most disappointing performer in a live setting, because you know, I heard Busy do a few verses without any accompanying vocal. I heard Wishbone's loud ass obviously do stuff. I heard Flesh's voice more than I ever heard Crazy's live voice during the verses. And Bone's music is so reliant on Crazy Bone. Like, I think that what's happening is you've got the ability to execute in the studio. And if you listen to Bone's music, you'll hear the precision, and it still holds to this day. It's like, it's some of the most mind-blowing recordings you will hear. Like, if you pop their song on, brilliant. But the fact that Crazy's not able to translate that somehow into the Bone Thugs and Harmony choruses, nor into his verses, it just ruins the Bone show for me. Like, I get it. I mean, you hear the Notorious Thugs beat opening, it's Bone and Biggie, Biggie. Come on, you go crazy. No pun intended. You hear the synth, the early, and the crossroads, like, come on, and you're just blown away. You're like, oh, that's my shit. So it's always gonna be that with Bone. But when you hear them get into the song, and then it's Crazy's turn to rock, and then you hear this loud backing vocal that sounds exactly like the track, sounds to where Crazy might as well not even be there. That just blows me away. Like, there's gotta be some sort of a way around that. Either like have Wish back you up vocally to where you don't have to execute the whole bar, so you could just do like, Dear Mr. Ouija, better know who the boss is, something if you wanna get tossed in, and then Wish could come on, River, put him in the Bud City Pump. Like, there are ways of working this out without just rapping to your entire complete song with backing vocals. There's just no excuse for that. And it just ruins, for me, it ruins the live experience for Bone Thugs and Harmony. So they played their songs. They eventually, you know, everybody got back on stage. Busy came back out after he was pretty much out of the show for a while after that whole scuffle. So the show went on, and it was entertaining for many. I was entertained. I tuned into the whole thing. But yeah, like, for Bone to be nearly as magical on stage as they have been in the studio, they're gonna have to fix that problem. And again, it would be one thing if it was like a Lazy Bone issue or a Flesh and Bone issue. But the fact that it's Crazy, who seems to be underperforming relative to how well they sound on the track, underperforming the most, that's just backbreaking to a Bone Thugs and Harmony show. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the versus battle. Like, it was obviously as unpredictable as you might expect from a Bone show, but damn, like when the fight happened, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. They about to close the Bone show. Out of all of the versus battle or battles, it's got to be the Bone show that ends up having something like this happen. Like, I just feel like they need to just keep on working to build and maintain, elevate their reputation, their legacy, because their music deserves better. Props to Lazy Bone and, you know, to an extent, Wish and Flesh and Bone. By the way, did you hear that freestyle when, you know, the stage was clearing towards the very, very end of the show where, like, Young Buck and Lil Flip killed the freestyle? Even Flesh got in the freestyle. They kind of stopped Flesh's freestyle, but I'm like, yo, these guys are actually coming off like MCs right now. Let's keep this moment going. I want to see what's what. But yeah, Lil Flip killed the freestyle. Flesh and Bone got into a freestyle. Young Buck freestyle, which, I mean, he rapped West Coast with Best Coast. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the battle. Again, with the studio vocals versus live vocals, it's like, if you're in a studio, you could get as close to the mic as you want, and you could sound as quiet and rap as fast as you want. You could sound as technical as you need to sound, because you're in a studio, the mic could be right here. You don't have to yell it over an audience, but there has to be a way to translate that. I get it. If Crazy Bone doesn't have the loudest natural voice, and he's obviously a super laid-back dude, like, I get that, but there has to be some way of Bone Thugs and Harmony working around that issue, because it's just glaring, and it subtracts from the performance immensely. But yeah, please leave your comments in the comments. Were there any omissions, like any songs that they left out that they should have included? I heard a lot of You Ain't Bone. I heard a lot of All Original. There were even a couple people in the comments of my last video that said that Execution Double 90 style intro from East 1999 Eternal. I heard a lot of suggestions. You know, they didn't go too deep into their catalog here. You know, they pretty much played the hits and then other songs that, you know, were key collaborations. Mariah Carey, Breakdown. I didn't expect Mariah Carey to come out, by the way. But yeah, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love hip hop like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.